to never hunger. To never hunger. Imagine that. What are you hungering for this morning? What am I hungering for? Father Phil, what are we hungering for this morning? Some of us, if we're young enough, may have heard announcements and seen the sign that coffee and donuts are after Mass. We hunger for donuts. Right? Some of us may be hungering for our life situation to change, for something to go right this morning. Others for us, we live in a city that I think may have been designed around food. Right? We've got this whole class of people called foodies who hunger for the latest, the newest, the bestest in food. And those who hunger for well-being, whose hunger is about intermittent fasting. It's a hunger to not eat. Hunger. Hunger is constitutional to us as human persons. It's the existential state in which we exist. Day in and day out, every moment. When we rise hungry. Hungry for those things that will satisfy us. And we hear in these readings today these wonderful examples of the Jewish people, the Hebrews on their journey to the Promised Land, a time in which God is so close to them. By night, a pillar of fire. By day, a cloud. They know God's presence with them, and they are on this journey, and yet they say, come on. We used to be satisfied, and here we are hungry, grumbling. It's like our stomachs do, right? They murmur at us. They tell us that we're hungry. They said, we're hungry. Give us bread. And God does indeed. And the Jewish people last week we heard, right? 2 fish, 5 loaves, and there were baskets of leftovers. They were so satisfied they were able to gather up baskets full of leftovers. We desire so many times in our life to be satisfied in so many different ways. The Jewish people today, following Jesus, they come to him in Capernaum and they said, we're hungry, Lord. We're hungry. But he knew them. He said, what you want is more of that bread that we had last week. We want more of that bread. Because they missed the point. The point is Jesus' last words in the gospel today. The invitation for us, brothers and sisters, to have an existential hunger, to wake up every morning hungry for Christ. He says to us, I am the bread of life. Now, I'm going to say something very controversial here. He didn't say the Eucharist is the bread of life. He said, I am the bread of life. Fall in love, hunger, live your entire life for me. Now, as Catholics, I get to say the really not controversial thing. And that is, if we hunger for Jesus, we come to him in the Eucharist. We receive him in the Eucharist. There's a staggering report from 2019. I looked at it again. That 60% of Catholics, and we repeat this and we repeat it, but 60% of practicing Catholics, we are told, believe that the Eucharist is just a symbol, that it's a sign, that it's a something about Jesus. And yet it is Jesus himself, body, mind, humanity, and divinity, full and complete, in that Eucharist. And so when the Eucharist is on the altar, consecrated by Father, made body and blood by the words of Jesus, raised up for us, given to us to consume, it is not so that we have contact with bread. It's so that we are filled to satisfaction with the presence of the bread of life himself, with Jesus himself. It's a phenomenal teaching of the church. St. Anselm once said, "We believe that God created the world. Which is harder, to create the world or to change the bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ?" This is not sign, it is reality. And so we talk, brothers and sisters, we use this funny language about real presence. All of us who are foodies, think of that meal, that wonderful meal we're about to have. Pick your favorite restaurant. And if that meal is just a sign, it won't be very good. Because we want the real deal. We don't want the advertisement. We hunger for the meal itself. And so, sisters and brothers, the church is inviting us in this season in which we reflect on John's gospel to ask ourselves, what is it that we hunger for? And actually, it's not a what, it's a who. It's who do we hunger for? Pope Benedict said that the central faith of Catholics, the central faith of Christianity, isn't in a doctrine, isn't in a way of life. It is indeed in the person of Jesus Christ. And so we're invited to hear those words today. I am the bread of life. He, she, they, all who hunger will never hunger again. Those who thirst will never thirst, because the answer to all of our hungers is Christ, his love, his mercy, his power to reconcile, his power to heal and to make whole all that we long for in our lives. Sisters and brothers, imagine our church, imagine our world. If each of us rose in the morning and before our foot hit the bed, our foot hit the floor, imagine what it would be if instead of wondering eggs or Atkin bar, that instead we hungered with all our hearts for the bread of life.
Please like, subscribe, or comment below.